sauces and different soups. We made a souffle. We made holiday sauce. We're pleased to report that of the 2 holiday sauces, one was very successful. So I had one good example. It's not easy to make. It has a tendency to break. How about last week? Were you successfully making the mayonnaise? No? Well, no. Some, yes, and some not. But it's okay. It's easy to break, is what I'm saying. Even, I mentioned to my students this morning, even with some of the professional chefs, every once in a while, their sauces would break because it's very difficult. It has to be slow. With holiday sauce, you have to be not only constant whipping, but the temperature has to be very moderate. Okay, so cook it at the top of the double boiler. Double boiler would be 2 pots, one on top of each other, but the top one cannot touch the hot water or boiling water underneath. There should be a gap in between. So put hot water in the first, the one that's placed on the stove, and constant stirring. And so medium heat or low heat. This is to reduce the heat. If you touch it and it's too hot, and you could break it very easily. So it was very interesting that we had one good result. And we made medium white sauce, and we made a thick white sauce, which was for the souffle. It turned out really well. So as we talked about it in class, the thin sauce will be 1, 1, and 1. 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 tablespoon of butter or fat, and 1 cup of liquid, which will be milk, generally speaking. The medium sauce would be 2, 2, and 1. It means 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of fat, which is used to separate the starch, and then use 1 cup of liquid. The third one, that's medium sauce. Medium sauce, but with 1, 1, and 1 would be used for soups. And I couldn't find a good recipe in the Mila Lab binder. So I did ask the students if they could bring in for the next lab, the following lab, next week. It's going to be on the same subject, starches and sauces. We're going to rotate the students so you get a different, you get a different product to prepare and see the different principles of food preparation. So I was like, so 1, 1, and 1 was not demonstrated today, but I did tell the students if they want to bring in a recipe, 1, 1, 1 for soups, cream soup, you could do that. And 2, 2, and 1, which would be the white sauce, with quite a few examples, and they all turned out really well. So white sauce would be perfect to serve on white food or fish products, fish, salmon, or chicken. But what I would do, sometimes what chefs would do, if you just make it with white sauce, there's no flavor. So if you make it with velouté sauce, it would be good because there's flavor. Velouté will be basically clear, raw, something with good flavor. What I often do is that I would mix, if you want it white, you could have half of the milk and the other half could be stock or concentrated stock to add flavor to it. Then use it on fish or chicken would be really good. So that was 2, 2, and 1, which we did today, and they all turned out well. We did a souffle, which turned out really well also. So, what are the principles? Students said, well, what could I explain, to fill 1 page? Well, you could talk about what you did in your lab, whether it turned out well, what was the proportion of 1, 1 to 1, 2, 2 to 1, 3, 3. How did it turn out? And compare with what I said in class, what I gave you, exactly what to. You see, in the recipe, sometimes quite a few recipes actually did not use all the butter. Because if you're already using cheddar cheese, which is already pretty high in fat, butter fat, you don't want to put too many calories into the recipe. So what they did was that they only used 1 tablespoon of butter, which is okay. So what I'm saying is that overall, if the flour is 2 tablespoons to 1 cup, then it's medium sauce. It's a sauce, okay? So sometimes they use less butter is what I'm saying, which is okay. As long as you could make it, if you could separate the flour granules, it's perfectly okay. So same thing with souffle. I think souffle is exactly 3, because you have to have it nice and thick. Then you put in the, sauce is made nice and thick, and then put in, it was cheddar, it was a cheese souffle, worked out really well. And we added the cheddar cheese to it. So you could explain why the proportion is not quite like what I tell you in class, but overall the proportion of flour, maybe a little less fat is perfectly okay because you've got other fatty, if you use whole milk rather skim milk, all that, you could say a lot of things. And you could also quote Brown what they suggest. So there are a lot of ways that you could explain what you think. So I think you could easily fill one page if you want to explain it in one page. I think that's a minimum that Emil would accept. And I do agree with him. So you could analyze the recipe. Okay, you can analyze what I tell you and why they differ and how your results turn out. So any question about it? But of course, I'm only marking my students in my class, my lab class. So Emil marks yours. So the best thing is for you to consult with your lab instructor, okay, how he grades it if you have any questions. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. And before I continue, 2 more announcements. Next, 2 weeks from today, we're going to have a midterm. The midterm will cover all the materials, not on weights and measures anymore, because I've already tested you on that. So starting from sanitation, safety, nutrition, fats, starches and sauces, and milk and milk products. So 2 weeks from today. And I will tell you, some students already asked me, how do you accommodate all the students? There will be 2 seatings. I will tell you how I'm going to do it. Okay? But you need to bring your Scantron sheet, the same green one.
Just one?
Just one. Probably about 70-some questions or something like that. But they're all true and false matching and all that. If you know the material, it's going to be really quick. Some students will finish in 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Some students will take longer. But that's why staggering is very good, to accommodate the students' needs. Okay, so that was the question before I go on. And also, there was a question about buttermilk. I said, I'll get back to you. Okay, why is it sour? And I didn't have the name with me. So it's Lactobacillus vulgaris or Lactococcus lactis. Those are the 2 bacteria that often are connected with milk. So when they extract the butter from the cream, it undergoes a little bit of the fermentation process. They allow it to ferment, allow the bacteria to react. So because the bacteria would change the lactose to lactic acid. But so if they can use the naturally occurring bacteria, is not all bad, by the way, but bacteria could be good for you, just like this, what I quoted. These all have fancy names. They all have lactis. That means they will react. Either they do the process of fermentation in the products. And that's why it's a lactic acid. That's why they all turn sour. But nowadays, rather than allowing the natural fermentation to occur, they add the lactose bacteria, whatever the name is, to make it a little easier. So that's why it's thick, because it curdles a little bit from the acid. I hope I've answered that question. So I think now we could go on with any questions. Now we could go on with the next topic, which is milk and milk products. And the midterm will only cover through today's material. Okay? Oh, everything is on. Let me double check. Yeah. I'm always panicked because what if the sound is not there or something, and students cannot hear me. Includes today's class for midterm.
We'll do the midterm in the lecture.
Oh, right here. Right here. I will tell you what to do. It's not going to take you more more than an hour for sure. Okay, but some will take a little more, and some will leave in 15 minutes. So I will take you as seats become available. I will tell you this. I will do it by alphabetical order. Half of the students will be here, and as you finish, I'll take the other students in to be seated. It worked out really well before. I had 160 students last year. I still accommodated. It was in a much larger room, so I can do it. Okay? All right, so we're on milk and milk products. Okay, by definition, milk and milk products. Yeah, did you have questions? Everything okay? All of you know milk and milk products made from milk, right? So we'll be talking about yogurt, milk, different kinds of milk, butter, yogurt, cheese, and all that. Milk. Let's talk about milk. I'm going to tell you what you need to know for this particular class. If I have time, maybe next, at the end of today, if I have time, or sometime next week, I'll tell you approximately what I'm going to be covering in the midterm, so you know how to study also. Okay. Milk is very, of course, one of the most perfect foods, milk and eggs, high biological value, and that's why children, of course, babies live on just milk. High in protein, a lot of vitamins and minerals. And we don't have to go into the nutritional aspect at all in this class. But it's also very highly perishable. They go bad very easily, so we have to be careful as how to store milk in quantity. And because milk, as I said before, in sanitation safety, is one of the neutral foods that bacteria would like also, so they fight with us for that. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it just a couple of different kinds of bacteria that like milk? And if it turns sour,
well, it's a combination of milk and something else. As long as it's a neutral pH. Once it's acid, they don't like it anymore. Okay, bacteria would like neutral food. Milk and egg product, like custard, cream puffs, oh, they love it. Have to be very, very, extremely, very, very highly perishable food. That's why we cannot expose it to room temperature for too long.
But
okay.
My question is,
Yeah.
The bacteria that breeds in milk, they're not poisonous bacteria, right?
No, the naturally occurring bacteria, we introduce some bacteria to make yogurt and sour cream and all that. No.
So if you drank soured milk, it would just taste bad, but you're not going to get sick.
Oh, well, the problem is that, you don't know, once it's bad with whatever the lactose bacteria is, there's likelihood of maybe something else might have gotten in. I would throw it away. No.
No, I was curious about what
Yeah.
bacteria are.
Yeah, because it's going to be a little sour. But you see, the professionals know what to control, what kind of good bacteria to introduce so that so the product curdle a little bit, sour a little bit, and that's what we are interested in tasting a lot, like the sour cream and all that. But when we do it, when we drink it, if it's sour, no, we have no control. We don't know what's in there and all that. Yeah. Okay, generally speaking, for safety reasons, no. Yeah, you're right, though. Any questions you want to ask me, please do. Okay. So milk is very, very nutritious. Okay, but high. I already mentioned when I answered your question. I already mentioned why anything made with milk and cheese and milk and eggs, very highly perishable. The bacteria like a lot because of its neutral pH. Unless if it's bad, if it's sour, then of course they will not attack it. Yeah, but any milk mixture type of food, they do like. Okay. Now, let's talk about whole milk first. Whole milk, of course, comes from a cow. And if you take a look at, from now on, I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of milk that everyone should know. And when I talk about milk, basically, water content is about the same. The solids, the protein, basically content is about the same. The milk, sugar, minerals, vitamins, and minerals are about the same. The only difference will be the milk fat, which is very different. So I would like you to know the approximate amount of milk fat that's in whole milk, in skim milk, non-fat milk, and all that. Because if you know the amount of fat that's in it, then you know everything else. So, because the rest is all pretty much the same. If you take a look at milk fat in whole milk, it's about 3%, to be exact, 3.25%. So my question to you would be, on an exam, would not be anything. It could be approximately 3.2, or I could say 3. You know, what I'm saying is that the answers will be vastly different. Okay, 1%, 3%, 6%, something like that. So you could easily pick it out. But if you don't know the percentage of fat, this is what we're all interested in knowing. Because this is what makes the caloric value different from one milk to another milk. It's really the milk fat. So take whole milk into consideration. Generally speaking, we talked about carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Okay? This is the only time I'm going to be talking about that. Carbohydrates, approximately 12 grams. And protein and fat, okay, approximately this, 8 grams, okay, for whole, I'm talking about whole milk. So if you remove the fat from skim milk, then it's only carbohydrate and protein. Remember, we talked about the calories, how many calories in 1 gram of fat. Because this is such a big issue with calories and weight gain and all that, I would like you to know that fat has more calories, remember? Fat has more calories than carbohydrate or protein. So how many calories are there in 1 gram of fat? I already gave it to you before. 9. Compared with protein and carbohydrate is what? 4. Only 4, okay? So that's the only difference. So in whole milk, you've got the original milk, you've got all of the milk fat there. And it's perfectly okay for children who need to grow up to be tall. They need the calories and all that. But once we're full grown, we've got to be careful with what we take in. Do we continue to need the milk fat in it? So we might want to change our diet or drinking habit to some skim milk if you need milk. Okay, so, oh, by the way, did I give you, let's just add this together just to see. So fat, 8 times 9 is what, 72. Carbohydrate and protein, they have the same. We could add them together, 20 grams times what? 4 calories per gram, 80 calories. So approximately how many calories are there in a glass of whole milk? If you add this, 160 or 150? About 150 calories, something like that. So if you were to remove the fat to drink whole milk, then it would be quite different, right? But we'll talk about whole milk, which is a necessity for children. Okay, pasteurization. Now, pasteurization is this traditional pasteurization method is something that I think everybody knew. From high school, I hear that they already studied. It's typically 161 degrees Fahrenheit, expose the milk for only 15 seconds to destroy all the pathogenic bacteria. So that's going to increase the shelf life. That means you could store the milk for enough days that we could feed the children. So whenever we buy milk, it's always pasteurized milk. It's required by law. So by law, all milk has to be pasteurized before they sell it to you. So they can store it at home in the refrigerator for enough time. Okay? So that's 161 for 15 seconds. Okay? It's something I would like you to know. Okay? That's traditional pasteurization method, pasteurizing everything else, food-wise. If this is liquid, by the way, for milk. So the main purpose, pasteurization, is to destroy the pathogenic bacteria, so we could store it for enough time in the refrigerator. Okay. Then, more recently, people got a little bit smarter because milk only lasts so long, maximum maybe a week or so. Then they start going bad and you have to throw it away. So we started using ultra pasteurization. Ultra pasteurization basically is to use a higher temperature compared with 161, higher now, 275, but only to expose the milk to 2 to 4 seconds. So what is boiling temperature? 212. So we're taking it to much higher than 212. 275, much higher. Okay. You don't have to remember this temperature. You just know that it's much higher than, I won't test you on that. The reason why we do this is because we want to further extend the shelf life, not just in the refrigerator. Okay, take a look. We could use it for any dairy products that needs to be stored at room temperature for a while. There's still a deadline for it, but you could leave it at room. You could store it at room temperature. It's still okay. Typically, do you know of any product that can be stored much longer in the refrigerator? Or sometimes you leave it at room temperature for a while, but not for too long. It tells you at refrigeration temperature, you can store it for 3 months, sometimes 4 months. Have you found a product? Butter? Butter, not milk. Milk products.
Oh,
yeah, give me another example. Okay. Do you know of any product that can be, have you shopped for whipping cream? Okay. Usually, how long does whipping cream last? Have you taken a look at the due date? No? It usually tells you the shelf life is until, what, 3 months later. Okay. You notice that? Yeah. Because you know what? We don't use it all the time. That's one product. With milk, it's different. Okay. With this, you can store it much longer, 3 months, sometimes 4 months, sometimes even 6 months. It's because they have used this method, ultra-pasteurization, for heavy whipping cream. Because, sometimes I buy it for Christmas. I could even buy it now for Christmas. It'll last until the deadline is date is maybe December or January sometime. So you could keep it for a while because we don't use it all the time. Whipping cream is good. Okay. The only thing, it's going to take you longer to whip, you'll find. It's going to take, normally for regular whipping cream that's pasteurized at 161, you can whip it up very quickly. It doubles in volume, triples in volume very quickly. But this, you have to whip it a little longer, which I don't mind, just so that I could keep it at the refrigeration temperature. I don't want to waste, and I may not want to use half of a pint or 1 pint. Whatever's left there could still keep for a while, which has saved us a significant actual amount of food, especially cream. Why buy and waste the cream when you can no longer use it after just a week or so? So you could extend the shelf life at refrigeration temperature. Now, have you seen organic milk? Have you seen half and half, by the way? Half and half. How long, if you buy half and half, how long, what is the date that, the due date that you have to throw out? You didn't notice. If it says ultra pasteurized, take a look at the label. If it says ultra pasteurized, that means you could keep it for a while. Again, half and half, you use it for coffee cream, and you don't use it all the time. You don't use it like within a few days for the children. So this is why it's a good idea to ultra-pasteurize. And also, individual creamers. They could even be kept at room temperature for a while. You know the creamers, individual creamers? It's fantastic. They last so much longer, and you don't taste. One thing is that you could taste, the problem is that, were you able to taste any of these products? But I suppose whipping cream, it's very difficult for you to taste the difference. It tastes a little cooked. But we don't care, because we're going to put it in coffee anyway. Half and half is what we use for coffee cream, right? So half and half is often ultra-pasteurized. Individual creamers also, and sometimes organic milk. Have you seen organic milk? One thing about organic milk is what? It's very expensive, right? Okay, would you put that away, please?
Yeah.
During class? Okay, I appreciate it. Organic milk. For organic milk, why is it that it stays on the shelf for so long in the grocery store for so long? Why won't that be rotated fast enough as regular whole milk? What's different with organic milk? Do we buy that frequently? Or no? Why not? Huh?
Organic milk is fresh and expensive.
It's expensive. Because it's expensive, it costs probably twice as much. Because it's expensive, we don't buy it. We don't pick that item out. And also, it has a cooked taste to it. So they do ultra-pasteurization, so it would last longer on the shelf, for them to stack it in the refrigerator. So anything that does not rotate fast enough, does not sell fast enough, it has been a blessing for them to introduce this ultra-pasteurization. I think came into existence, I would say, about maybe 10 years ago. Okay, for any of the milk products that could be raised to such a temperature, high temperature, but much shorter time, only 2 to 4 seconds, I could taste the difference. If you get a chance, you could taste the difference between the organic milk that's ultra-pasteurized. It has a cooked flavor, a little bit of the cooked flavor. Okay? So in the United States, that's what we get. If you buy whipping cream, it's ultra-pasteurized. If you buy organic milk, most of the time it's ultra-pasteurized. So they could stay in the refrigerator for a while. And then when you bring it home, maybe you could keep it for longer also. Okay. So anything that does not get used, does not get sold quickly, and does not get used quickly, such as cream, coffee cream, which is perfectly okay for ultra-pasteurization. Okay, so now the next stage is ultra-high. The difference is the students get mixed up. They ask me all the time. That's ultra-pasteurization. This is what they call ultra-high. There's a word high inserted in the middle. Ultra-high temperature. And that's a processing method that brings it up to even that higher temperature. Take a look. Okay, so what was it earlier? Did you notice? 270, I'm sorry, this is 161, 275, this is 280 to 300. Okay. So when they bring it to higher temperature, but only for 2 seconds or 6 seconds, they found out that they could store it at room temperature without refrigeration, okay, for at least 3 months if it's unopened. So milk could be stored at room temperature for 3 months without being open. Have you seen milk here that could be sold at room temperature? Is that they stored at regular, shelf? Did you see milk? Is that right? Have you regular milk? Okay, but have you had it? Have you tasted it? I know the European countries started a long time ago. I remember about 6, 7, 8 years ago, when my husband and I went to Europe, and that's I wanted to get some skim milk to be stored. I like to keep it in the refrigerator in the hotel room. And that's all that I could get. Practically smaller grocery stores only had the ultra high temperature UHT processed milk. And when I drank it, it's at room temperature. Sold at regular grocery shelves, When I drank it, that was the first time I drank it, I tasted it. I thought, it's not so bad, but it did have a cooked flavor. That's what I thought. So I drank it anyway. But this particular country, United States, actually did not use this method for a long, long time. But recently, I know that they've done it with soy milk for quite a few years, but I still have not seen milk. Maybe I missed it. Just regular dry storage along with the canned goods at room temperature?
Maybe I'm mistaken then.
I have not seen it yet.
I feel like almond milk and soy milk.
Oh yeah, soy milk, yes, almond milk, yes, I've seen that. But not regular milk, not cow's milk, not that I've seen. But in Europe, it's cow's milk, whole milk, skim milk, that's all they had, in fact. And I couldn't, but they did have, when we went back, of course, they did have regular milk stored at refrigerator, regular pasteurized. But why is it that we did not adopt the system of pasteurization? Do you know? They tried it several times in the United States, and it did not sell. The milk did not sell. Okay.
Probably too expensive to make.
Too expensive? No, it's not too expensive, because especially when they could store it. It's a good guess, though. Yeah. But children didn't like it. Children are very sensitive to the taste. The Americans just did not like the cooked taste to the milk. Did you like it?
Yeah.
I like the soy milk that's stored at room temperature, but I don't drink soy milk all the time. But soy milk has a much stronger flavor anyway, so it did not bother me. But I could definitely taste the difference with this UHT in Europe that we bought, because it did have a cooked taste, and that's why it did not sell in the United States. And they wanted to introduce it again. But when they introduced, you know what they introduced? I see chocolate milk. Because you don't taste the cooked off flavor. So chocolate milk is stored at room temperature containers, yeah, it's at room temperature. And soybean milk. And almond milk, yeah. But regular milk, these children cannot detect them because with all the chocolate, with all the sugar, they can't detect the difference. Otherwise, they don't like it. If it didn't sell well fast enough, they wouldn't want to continue,
My mom makes milk.
Oh, boiled milk is also good, and you can store it for a while.
It didn't bother me.
It did not bother you?
No.
Okay. And you get used to the flavor, right? And you may like it. I like boiled milk, too, sometimes, at night. Put something to it, chocolate or something. So, okay, any questions here? So what we call ultra high, it's even higher temperature than the regular UT processing. Okay, so that's what the high H is inserted in the middle. That's why, okay, this is why this is in French, lait, right? Okay, and then you do find it in chocolate. That's why I have there's a picture of chocolate milk. That sells pretty well. I see it all the time. Chocolate milk, individual cartons, at room temperature. And it tastes good. And the children didn't know any difference. So, okay. So we talked about homogenization before. Regular whole milk is so smooth here in the United States. But of course, I think in Europe, some of the other countries, they like the original milk that has the layer of cream at the top. But here, we buy homogenized milk, and that's the generally accepted milk for. When it says homogenized milk, what does it mean? It means that the fat size, the milk fat globules have been reduced. Basically, it's been dispersed permanently and emulsified also. So what it is that they introduce agitation to it. When you shake it, for example, shake it to break up the fat size to very small size, and then they get emulsified because there is a small amount of liquid protein that's in milk that's a natural emulsifier. So these fat gets broken into small pieces, and the liquid protein that's naturally occurring in the milk surround itself, okay, to keep those fat globule size small and get permanently dispersed in the milk. So that's why it's so smooth. Okay, a lot of other countries said, oh, your milk here is so good, regular homogenized milk, because it's uniform in consistency, the color is nice, and it's a very rich taste. And of course, what is the percentage of fat it has? Okay, it has 3.25. Okay, what makes it taste, whole milk taste so good is a fat, of course. But once you go to skim milk, it doesn't have the same taste, right? So you should know what homogenized milk is. That's all we get. All the milk we get here. Okay. It's all, everything that they sell as whole milk is homogenized. Okay. Well, this is a photo of homogenized milk. The milk, originally, the fat particles are very large, and they break them up into very small pieces, and they get homogenized, and they are permanently dispersed in the liquid. The fat is dispersed in the liquid. Right. And the milk in this country is also certified. And this is why everything you eat, everything you drink here in this country is always top-notch. It always goes through certification or inspection. Basically, they have examination of the cows to make sure that the cows are healthy before they examine the milk. Because if the cows are sick, diseased, then it will not be certified. All milk will have to be certified. And then not only that, the health department inspects the farm, the equipment, and the employees who handle the milk. Of course, well, when we say certified milk, it will be milk for distribution to the general public. But of course, there's smaller farms you could always visit. The best part, they said, is go to the farm actually to drink the raw milk, the real warm milk is still somewhat warm, okay, from the cow. They said, and you taste the cream first. They said, I've never had the opportunity to do that. They said, it's the best milk. So once it's homogenized, and then of course it's a little different, they have to pasteurize it, and the taste is already a little different. But then we want safety first. Okay, now we have organic milk. Organic milk is what we see now as being very expensive. What do we mean by organic? It's the same thing. We talked about organic vegetables before. Now we talk about organic milk. When we say organic milk, what does it mean? So the cows are what? The milk comes from cows that have not gotten the hormone shots, and milk comes from cows that have not been fed antibiotic, which has bothered a lot of the consumers in this country. Okay. We don't know what hormones do to us, but all that we now know is that girls as young as 7 years old start puberty already. They said, is it because of all the hormones we are consuming now? So we don't know what's going on. So a lot of people believe that maybe to drink organic milk would be the best bet. It's the same nutritional value, but no antibiotic. And what's the concern with antibiotic? With hormone, we know. We don't want too much of the hormones in our system, especially children, right? How about the antibiotic? Why don't we want all the antibiotic? Yeah.
Antibiotics is like if we get like prescription medication from the doctor, it would help us because we already use
Exactly. We think that consumers think that we're getting too much of the antibiotics. Why? Why do we need additional antibiotics? When we take too much, when we actually need penicillin, when we actually need antibiotics for whatever purpose we need it for to fight disease, they may not work as well, or they may not work at all. This is a major concern now, okay, with especially in the United States, especially because of too much antibiotics given to them, especially for the chicken. Can you imagine salmonella because of that? And they keep giving them antibiotic way too early, unnecessarily, which that's why hormone-free and antibiotic-free chicken also is quite a bit more expensive. Free-range chicken's the same thing. So time will tell to see. I don't know whether we're going to, how successful we are. They always say, because of increased population, you have to have enough food, enough milk to go to the market to meet the needs of the consumers. So we'll see. But that's what a lot of people are very, very concerned about nowadays, too much of that, okay? I don't know whether you've heard of the VAT pasteurized organic milk. Oh, by the way, what was the concern with the organic milk? Why don't we buy organic milk all the time? Too expensive, double the price. Is it double the price or triple the price? Triple, almost triple. So why, so when you compare the price, and not only that, as I said, organic milk, a lot of people don't like to drink that. Children don't like to drink that because it doesn't sell well. They have to do pasteurized at a higher temperature and has that cooked flavor, which is a little different. Raw milk actually, in reality, if they're used to that, if they like that better than ultra pasteurized, is what I'm saying. It's not, it doesn't taste exactly the same. But of course, if we don't drink that much milk, we put half tea and half milk, it doesn't matter, right? But it is expensive, quite a bit more expensive, 3 times almost. Have you heard of the VAT, value added tax, pasteurized organic milk? Look, it went down to 100. Oh, those who drank it, they said they wouldn't drink any other milk but that. It's expensive. You have to pay. It comes in a bottle. See, a lot of people, for milk drinkers, the real milk is without any off flavor. It has to be pure. And they feel that milk that's in those cartons, paper cartons, has this off flavor. So this comes in glass bottles. Glass bottles. That's when the milk does. Actually, I tasted it. Very little. I don't. But it did. It tastes very pure, with no impurities. As if like, look at the temperature. 145 for 30 minutes. They brought the temperature way down because if you cook it at too high a temperature, it has this cooked flavor. What they like is not to have this cooked flavor. The original milk, still organic. So 145, what is that temperature? What is boiling temperature? 212. Look, 145 only for 30 minutes. That's why the milk tastes so original, they said. It tastes so good. Those who were used to it, they said, are absolutely no way to drink any other milk but this. So they taste the flavor, they taste the natural enzymes and the flavor in it too. It's creamy and rich if it's whole milk. But it's very expensive because you also, not only do you have to pay for the milk, and it's heavier, it's in glass. They don't want the paper because the paper carton always gives you this off flavor, So you have to pay for the deposit for the bottle also. So somebody has to come and deliver the milk, just like you leave a little box outside the door for them to drop it in, and you have to remember to bring it into the house, and you leave the empty bottle back out there, and they pick up, and they give you fresh bottles. So it is quite a bit more expensive, as I said, if you think it's worth the milk.
Just because it's in glass.
It's in glass. It's more,
What you said? It was in glass.
yeah, it got glass bottles.
Okay, yeah. So that's what makes it more expensive.
More, it makes it more pure because it doesn't have the impurities from paper, from the regular cartons. It does taste very, very pure, like real milk. Yeah, and also no leakage. Also sometimes because paper is somewhat porous. Paper cartons are somewhat porous, so you're bound to have impurities going into the milk. This is glass, so it's very inert. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we know that whole milk has 3.25% fat, approximately 8 grams per cup. Low-fat milk has less, kind of in between. Let's talk about skim milk. Skim milk is the same as non-fat milk, skim milk or non-fat milk, and basically has no fat or less than 0.5% fat. So for skim milk, you could pretty much remove this portion, right? No fat. So all you have is just protein and carbohydrate. So if that's the case, you add the two together, it's only 80 calories versus 150, some 160 calories. So you cut down by quite a bit of calories here, and you're not getting the butter fat. So skim milk. So I'm talking about skim milk first. Let me see. There's another, just a minute. There's another slide I'm missing. Okay, skim milk. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to know. Okay, it's the same as what I have here. So skim milk is basically no fat, okay, and yet you have all the nutrients also. Low fat is kind of like in between. Low fat, very difficult to tell you exactly what percentage, because it could be somewhere between 0.5 to 2.0%, so anywhere in the middle. So that tells us something. So another half of this goes into here will be 120 calories, something like that, approximately. You're saving some calories, you're saving some of the butter fat that you don't want in the diet, if that's what you're on right now. Okay? So, is it difficult for me to ask you to know this? Okay, that whole milk has 3.25 or 3% butter fat. Skim milk has basically no fat, no butter fat. And low-fat milk has in between. If I give you 1% milk, then if I say 1% milk fat, then you know it's low fat. Because everything is based on milk fat per se. Protein is the same, carbohydrate is the same. Okay? All right. As I mentioned, milk is very perishable, goes bad easily, even though it's pasteurized. It does help for it to be pasteurized, but still, okay, it goes bad easily. You have to watch the due date for you to discard. And when you go to an institution, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's hospital, have you been to the kitchen area? Have you taken maybe a tour of the hospital storage area, food storage area? What did you see? You see a box, a refrigerator, walk-in refrigerator for meats. You have a refrigerator or walk-in refrigerator for dairy products. And you have a walk-in refrigerator for vegetables and produce. Why are they different? Okay. Because especially for these institutions, it's very important that they keep them at the right temperature because they do differ in terms of the temperature requirement. Because shelf life rapidly gets reduced for every 5-degree difference. This is why. So if you want to keep them longer in whatever freezer or refrigerator box you're using, the temperature has to be correct. Okay? So for produce, it's always a little higher temperature, just a little compared with the dairy products. The dairy products will require lower temperature. Produce at 40 is still okay, but milk and milk products, dairy products will have to be lower than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? But of course, for meats, it will be even lower. For fish, when we talk about fish and meats, we'll talk about. So for milk, it has to be a different box to be lower than the produce box. Less than 40 degrees, maybe 38, 37 will be good. And freezing is not recommended. Once you freeze milk, it's destroyed because homogenization gets broken. Okay, so freezing, and you think the milk has gone bad because it separates. Okay. Say it again. Your aunt likes. Does she purposely wait until it separates?
No, she'll freeze it.
She'll freeze it so it separates, right?
It doesn't look like it.
Not quite.
Yeah, is that
No. But it's just it changes the consistency, though. Is it just as smooth?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Did it? What do you think?
My mom always froze milk.
Oh, is that right? How did?
Rotated in the freezer, so every time we drank milk, it was fresh milk. It was like fresh.
How did it taste?
It wasn't. Yeah, it did separate.
It did separate. How badly did it separate?
I can't remember. I mean, it didn't.
It's not as smooth.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
No. Okay. But it's all what you used to. Okay. Well, if you freeze it, you've kept it at the right temperature. If you drink it right away, it's okay if you like it. It's okay. But people who like regular homogenized milk, they like the smoothness. That's what it is, the consistency that you like. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of options. Okay, it's all what you're used to. Coming up now, concentrated milk, evaporated milk. Evaporated milk means, did you see the evaporated milk in containers? Yeah. The evaporated milk looks like this. It says evaporated carnation milk. What it is that about half of the water, 40% of the water has been, 60%, approximately half is good enough. I'm not going to give you exact amount, but if it's I would say about half of the water has been extracted. So it's very concentrated milk. And it's been canned. If it's been canned, of course, it's been cooked at high temperature. But other than that, you could keep it for a long time. So evaporated milk, they do use for some of the programs to save certain countries from starvation because you could keep it for a long time. Okay, for just like other staple goods for a year or even more than a year, no problem. Okay, evaporated milk. In fact, I don't know whether you knew this now. I would say about 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Did you know that babies were raised on evaporated milk? Do they still use it? I don't know. What it is that they dilute it with distilled water or boiled water, because all you have to do is put in another half of water, and it's perfectly good because you've got the calcium, you've got the protein, you've got the fat, you've got everything that you need here. And once the babies are used to drinking that, that's before we have the formula. It's perfectly okay. They like it a lot. In fact, they didn't want to change it to anything else. It was difficult for them to change to whole milk eventually when they grow older. So evaporated milk is perfectly okay. It's just a part of the water has been removed. Okay. Now, this is different. Evaporated milk is different from condensed milk. They call it the same. Condensed. What's condensed? Condensed means evaporated, yeah? You think that it's just the same as evaporated milk, but when they call condensed milk, it actually is the kind that's sweetened. That's different. Sweetened condensed milk often is used for dessert items, especially the Southeast Asians like to make desserts with sweetened condensed milk. So it is sweet. So you don't want to give that to the babies. You only want to give the evaporated milk, which is perfect at that time. Almost all of the babies were on it before formulas came in. Now, the other is the dried skim milk. Have you ever seen dried skim milk? Powder form. Have you seen it? Yeah? I know the Costco used to sell it, and it's really good because you could use that for your coffee and tea. You could save, it's just as good. It's skim milk, no fat. Okay? And you could store it for a long time in this form. Dried skim milk has been shipped abroad also for certain programs to save the children. So dried skim milk is basically no moisture at all. It's just dried. Have you seen it? Anybody seen it? Yeah. I always keep that at home. In fact, sometimes last-minute emergency, you don't have any milk products, and you could always put it in coffee, which is very good. Okay, more protein, just no fat. That's all. Now, can we get dried whole milk? Dried whole milk? Okay. Have you seen it? No, why not? Why don't they pack dried whole milk? You can reconstitute it and make it into whole milk. Yes, exactly. Okay, the fat is a problem. Not easily available. It goes rancid easily after a while. So when there's no fat, you can keep it for a long time. So this, if you want to refrigerate it, it comes in a can actually. And some of the other countries do use that. Sam?
I just want to clarify, for evaporated milk, it's 60% water removed, but for condensed milk, is it also 60%?
About that, yeah. But just they add sugar. Okay, I would say about 50% of the water is removed. It says here 60% removed, but it's approximately half of the removed. That's all you.
Evaporated milk is not.
It's the same as this, except that they put sugar, a lot of sugar in it. Very sweet.
The evaporated milk is not sweet at all.
No. That's why we use it for babies. Perfectly good, as long as you boil water. All right. So let me see. Whole milk. It's not available. If you do find it, it would be in a can. And because it goes bad so easily, it's not popular. If they don't sell, it would have to be very expensive because they cannot keep it for too long either. And you have to, the best thing is to refrigerate it. Will be okay. And you know what rancidity is? Faster rancidity. What is rancidity? Okay, it goes back. Good. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to the cream. So is it easy to know the different milk? Yeah? Now we're going to the cream. Okay, so we know how much fat there is in whole milk. Okay. Now, there are other products that have even more butter fat, but there is a purpose for it. And let's go to the heaviest, the one that has the most fat. It's a whipping cream. It has so much fat, butter fat, that you can whip it to give us whipped cream. Oh, that's what tastes so good. A cake made with real whipping cream tastes so good. Look at the milk fat, how much milk fat it is. About 30, 35 or 36. Okay, so I would like you to know the difference so you know each time you take a bite of cake with whipped cream, you know what you're eating. So 36%, more than 36% milk fat. That's a lot. But we could whip it very easily. Okay, so half and half will be what? Will be half of that. 36 divided into 2 will be 18. Is it 18? Yeah. So between 10 to 18. It could be less, approximately that. And coffee cream, often we use half and half of coffee cream anyway. But if it's specifically coffee cream or light cream, sometimes they call it light cream, it's kind of in between. So fat is all dependent on this. All the cream products are exactly the same as regular milk products. It's just that it has more butter fat. How much more? And look at the calories that you're taking in when you take whipped cream dessert. Okay, so now that we've covered the cream products and milk products, we're going to the cultured or the fermented, somewhat fermented dairy products, which we consider to be good for desserts or for special usage. As I mentioned before, there are various bacteria that we use for dairy products. Lactase this, lactase that. And they're specifically for milk products. So if you introduce a little bit of that bacteria into it, they're all good bacteria, okay, it curdles the milk. Right away, the milk curdles, and it becomes more solidified. So typically, let's take a look. What do we have? What is typically is what we get: yogurt and sour cream. Okay, so the reason it's sour is because the bacteria turns the lactose, which is a carbohydrate, which is not sour, to lactic acid. So all of these products are somewhat acidy in nature or in taste. Okay, and such as sour cream, buttermilk, and yogurt. So I think that's all that I need to say here about all of these products, giving different taste and different texture, and to be used for different purposes. And buttermilk is great for baking because it already has some acid. If you add this to baking soda, which is used as a leavening agent, it gives you a super leavening power. Okay, we'll talk about that when we talk about different baking products. Okay, so basically they introduce a little bit of the bacteria. And if you, are there names? I thought I had some names here. Let me see. Oh, buttermilk coming up. Okay, buttermilk. Originally, buttermilk was the original churning method that they used to turn the cream to butter and the rest of it to be buttermilk and have the naturally occurring bacteria to act on it. But now, they just started with milk and then a little bit of lactase bacteria, such as Streptococcus lactis. Of course, all of these bacteria are perfectly okay for you to consume without any harm. And it has because of this fermentation process, it gives you a nice thick product, a little thicker product, even though it's skim milk. Often, now you have to watch it. Sometimes buttermilk is not skim. Sometimes buttermilk is now fat. So it may have some fat also. So what? Sometimes, but the traditional buttermilk is fat-free. So sour cream. Let me see. Sorry. So sour cream, it's just instead of whipping cream, sour cream, whipping cream has 36%. So sour cream starts with a light cream in between light cream, 18% milk fat. They start with that. They add a culture to it. They use all different kinds of lactase bacteria. This is Streptococcus lactis. And it gives you this very tangy gel, very good texture that you could incorporate into flour mixture and all. They give you this nice flavor, a very distinctive, actually, taste to it. And same thing with yogurt. Again, children like it a lot. They get used to it. You could start with milk. You could start with whole milk. You could start with skim milk. Okay, just add a culture to it, such as these are the fancy names. Okay, Lactobacillus vulgaris, Gobericus, and several Streptococcus also bacteria, but they act on lactose, which turns it into lactic acid, which has a little bit of sour taste to it. And yogurt, of course, is very, very popular in Middle Eastern cuisine. Also Indian cuisine also. They always have yogurt when they eat dinner. They always have a bowl of yogurt. It's homemade. They make it themselves. And then they would put the yogurt into the curry and eat their dinner that way. Okay. Creme fraiche is a French cream. It's a culture, also a little, a little sour, it's a very tasty cream, actually. It's very popular in France. So sometimes if you want to prepare a French meal, a dessert could be served with a little bit of creme fraiche, and they know it's a French word, and it's French dessert. It also has this nice tart, tangy flavor, nice flavor. But when you go to a French restaurant, they charge you a lot, and that's what they use. And also, sometimes they use it in addition to dessert. They could use it in soups and sauces also to add that a little bit of tangy flavor. And we already talked about butter. How we produce that, we already talked about that. Butter, about 80% milk fat. Okay, the rest will be 16% water. There's quite a bit of water there. Okay. And a little bit of salt. Okay. One thing about butter that's different. Why is it that we don't use butter to fry our food, pan fry our food? Sometimes you can, but normally we don't. Why don't we use butter to pan? Flavor is good. Why don't we pan fry our fish, for example? Yes, good. Yes, it has a low smoke point. It burns very easily. So you really cannot fry it very well. So the only way you could do it is to have it clarified. Why did it smoke, by the way? What was it that makes the butter burn? Protein, good. A little bit of the protein makes it, yes, brown. You see the brown dots. At first it looks bad, okay? And so you can't serve it. So the only way, so that's why it's low smoke point. It starts to smoke at a low temperature. So you can't use it for frying. So the only way you do it is to remove the solids. Remove all the solids that's there. Okay, because it has what? 2 to 4. This is the milk solid you could remove. Once you remove it, then you could actually use it more often. This is why clarified butter often is used in a variety of different dishes. Yes?
Is it harmful to eat brown butter or burnt butter?
No, it's just.
Not carcinogenic if it's like burnt?
Well, you taste the burnt taste though, and it doesn't look good. You cannot serve it in a restaurant. It doesn't look good. People might think that, what did you do? What's all those specks of brown stuff? It doesn't look good. So this is why they cannot serve it in a restaurant. But it doesn't matter. If you eat at home, it doesn't matter. The flavor of butter is still good. So if you want to do it perfectly okay at home, but they can't serve it in a restaurant. So what do we use today in the lab? That I wanted to make a comment on. Anybody in our lab? In my lab this morning. What do we do today as an example? We use regular butter, but we could have used clarified butter in a homogenized product. Hollandaise sauce. Hollandaise sauce. use butter. You can't, generally speaking, in a restaurant, the chefs would use clarified butter because all these specks, brown specks, doesn't look good to begin with. Okay. And also, I think you might taste it somewhat also. So clarified butter would be better. But in our sample this morning, hollandaise sauce, they just used regular butter and it was fine. Okay. So margarine originally was made to resemble butter, remember? Because we wanted to have, somebody got really smart, vegetable oils are much better for you, and all we have to do is to solidify it by introducing hydrogen to it, and they used to make them into stick form. They still do now, but it's the process is different now. You don't see it very often now. You only see butter or margarine in tubs. Okay, it's not a dairy product. It started with vegetable oil. They thought that it would be good for your health, so they introduced hydrogen to it. So what happened when you introduce hydrogen to it? Yeah, it becomes what? The configuration gets to what? Trans. So instead of normally it would be the cis, right around the double bond would be the cis. The two hydrogen would be here. Cis means on the same side. But when you introduce hydrogen to it, they turn a lot of the hydrogen bonds the other way to form trans forms. Trans fat. They never thought that would happen by changing the configuration. Once it becomes trans fat, they found out that it's a lot different in terms of the health aspects of margarine. So they don't make regular margarine into the stick form to resemble butter anymore. They only make them in the tub form because they don't hydrogenate the fat, the vegetable oil as much, and they add a lot of other stuff to it. As long as it tastes okay, still not the same as butter. So that's what a lot of people are going back to butter, just don't eat as much if you really like the flavor. So margarine originally had all the coloring emulsifiers added to make it resemble just like butter. And everything else is supposed to resemble, but now not as often. You still see it, but they don't sell as well because people don't want to get configuration. It's called the trans fat. Okay, so what is cheese? Do you know how they make cheese? Have you visited a cheese farm? Have you seen how they make cheese? I'm sure you've seen babies regurgitating from drinking too much milk. Okay. Because it's very common that because they cannot digest the milk easily, so they vomit a lot sometimes. Initially, it takes a while for the stomach to get used to milk. And when they spit out the milk, what do you observe the milk to be? Curdled. Yeah. What is it that make the babies vomit so curdled? It's the same. It's milk. By the time it comes out of the stomach, it's curdled. Do you know what it was? It's not bacteria, because there's no bacteria in the stomach. What is it that make it curdle? Do you know what's in the stomach? Enzyme. Good. Okay. So it's the enzyme. So enzyme, if you add the enzyme to milk, it's going to curdle it. That's what it is. So originally, when they made cheese, that's what they did. They used the enzyme from the pigs. But of course, they pasteurized it, and they made it safe for consumption. But that was the original cheese. Even now, they call it the rennet tablet, whatever it is. Okay. Original, yeah. Yeah, rennet comes from the stomach, actually. It's actually running, but of course it's slightly, they have to make it safe for consumption. Yeah. So they said, I could curdle milk because that whatever the enzyme is in the stomach could curdle it. Okay. So now sometimes they curdle with rennet, which is the enzyme. Now sometimes they add other enzymes. Sometimes they use some lactic acid, whatever it is. It's their secret recipe for making cheese. Why is that the one cheese tastes so much different than another sample of cheese? And when they add the enzyme, the milk curdles right away. So what they do is that I visited the factory, and what they did was that they just collected the curd, okay, removed the whey, and then picked up the curd, and then they packed this into blocks, and that's how they form cheese. So they remove the liquid or the whey, the curd gets collected, they heat it, they add salt to it, they press the curd until it forms like a block of cheese, and then they have to ripen it to develop the special flavor. What is ripening? Does anybody know? Ripening is the same as curing the cheese. Now, if you know how wine is made, do you know how wine is made to develop a special flavor for wine? You collect the grapes, you crush the grapes, you get the grape juice, and what do you do to it? Huh?
You age it?
Age it. Good. Okay. You age it. You store it. Okay. Curing it will be ripening it or aging it. The longer you age it, the longer you cure it, the stronger, the sharper is the flavor. And that's why the aged cheddar is always stronger than the mild cheddar, depending on how long it is, just like wine. The longer you store it in those barrels, the more flavor it's going to develop. And that's why it's going to demand higher price, because that's, you put it to your nose, it's like, look, it's so complicated bouquet that they're smelling. It's all from the curing process, aging process. So the cheese is the same thing. The longer they store it, the longer they age it, the better, the sharper is the flavor. So that's how we get cheese. But one thing is, take a look. 1 pound of cheese comes from 1 gallon of milk. Can you imagine how high the calorie is? Just like drinking 1 whole gallon of milk. I see sometimes cheese, there's no stopping to it. So somebody eating 1 slice of cheese, some cracker and jam or whatever, another slice, you keep eating it. What did you eat? Half of a what? Pound probably gone. It will be half of a gallon, right? So it is the same as milk in value. Okay. Protein will be very high biological value, we said that, because milk has very high biological value. The protein is very good, just like milk. Okay. Fat is saturated, though. For babies, perfectly okay. For adults, we have to watch it. Okay. Saturated fat, it's just like butter fat. May not be so good for you, so we kind of have to watch it. And it's high, but it's good in vitamin A. And sometimes it could be high in salt. It's very salty. Cheese will be, sometimes it's too much, too high in salt if you're on a low salt diet. So cheese basically is a rich food. Concentrated milk is what it is. So if you were to save in calories, what do? Are there skim milk cheese products? Yeah, I've seen my daughter buying those cheese sticks. They said it's from skim milk, but it's not. It doesn't taste the same, of course. So if you know what cheese is made, and okay, so there are certain cheeses that don't have to be ripened, unripened. So these will be called the soft, unripened cheese, such as cottage cheese, cream cheese, ricotta cheese. You buy them all the time. They're not ripened. So there's no strong flavor at all, very mild flavor. Soft means there's quite a bit of liquid to it. There's firm, there's semi-firm. So firm, unripened, still unripened with mozzarella cheese we use for pizza. So it's not strong cheese, mild. That's why a lot of people like pizza because of that. It doesn't have some people, especially from other countries, very strong cheeses just don't agree with them. Okay, semi-firm will be unripened feta cheese and all that. So cream cheese, typically, ricotta cheese, cottage cheese, mozzarella, they're not very strong. They're not strong, no flavor, basically. But they're the natural cheeses. But once you ripen them, store them, just like wine, as I said, depends on how long you store it, they could still be soft and ripened. Soft cheese will be the Camembert or Brie, much stronger in flavor. Children usually don't like them unless they get a little older. Firm, ripened. What's the difference between soft and firm? If it's soft cheese, there's more liquid, right? More water content. Firm will be what? It will be more solid and less liquid, that's all. So firm, ripened, typically cheddar cheese, Gouda, Swiss, Jack cheese, Kobe, all these are typically what we eat as cheddar with Swiss cheese, Gouda cheese. Now there are certain cheeses that have different flavors, has mold in it. As I say, bacteria, not all bacteria are bad. Mold, the same thing. Not all mold are bad. They test to make sure that they will not harm us or hurt us. So the blue vein, all kinds of blue cheese, Gorgonzola, very strong and old. Strong old, people say strong odor or very strong flavor. Typically, Gorgonzola is very strong. And so these are when it's ripened. That means they've been aged. They smell stronger. And blue cheese is what? It's actually a good kind of mold. We don't want any mold that will hurt us, right? So all of these, if you know the reality of these foods, we eating bacteria, we eating mold that have been aged, but been taking care of the processor to make sure that we don't get ill from it, right? Now, processed cheese. With processed cheese, it's different. We cannot call them cheese, such as cheese. We call them processed cheese, American cheese, okay. American cheese actually is a blend of cheese. American cheese is a blended combination of other natural cheeses, such as, they call it American cheese. Some cheddar, whatever leftovers cheese is what it is. They put them together, emulsify it, and they make grilled cheese sandwiches and all that. They feed them to children. This is healthy. They like grilled cheese sandwiches, so this is what it is. It's American cheese. We don't know American cheese. We don't know what kind of cheese it is. A combination of cheeses that they use, basically leftover whatever. They think that they have an extra stock of some kind of cheese. They mold it together and form slices. So American cheese doesn't mean anything. Now, cheese food, certain cheese food is made with cheese, but not all cheese product. Look, cheese food can be 51%, sometimes 51% natural cheese content. But they add milk cream to it, milk solid to it, or whey to it. So it's only 50% natural cheeses. The rest is all extra stuff that they put in. But they cannot call it cheese anymore, by definition. According to FDA, they have to call it what? It's called Velveeta cheese. It's soft. It tastes different. It's not the natural cheese. Or Whiz, whatever. So they have to call it a different product. And, let's see, do we have any more slides? Oh, let's see, any more in there? Oh, yeah, imitations. Imitation. Sometimes you have even ice cream. You have soy ice cream, so it's made with soy milk. So imitation cheese will be tofu or soy cheese. And I think we're done early. Some of the classes do you have any questions? I think I already made the announcement about the lab this week, so I think you could always come up with any principles. You could relate it to the textbook. That's why.
What would you
Oh, by the way, some of you did not quote very well. You could either, I didn't ask for references per se, so some of you very good gave me reference listing, 2 or 3 references, which is fantastic, and then they quote in the text, which is good. So when you quote in the text, it should be the name, it could be Sim, okay, this year, 2016, okay, or it could be Brown, okay, whatever the year is. So generally speaking, we'll quote the author's name and the year, and the reference will be at the bottom. So I asked him there what he considers to be acceptable. He said that because I did not, I don't know whether you realize in the course syllabus, I did not ask for a reference list. If you gave me a reference list, so much the better. I like that a lot. That should have been added, but I didn't have it. If you had it, it's great. If not, you should at least in the text right after where you use the information from my class, like then quote at least my name and whatever, or Brown, whatever, that's the way you're supposed to do it. So quote right after the sentence or sentences where you take the information from. So you could talk about your recipe, what you did, what the result was like. It curdled, it separated, it broke. But according to whatever, this would happen if you agitate it. If you didn't agitate it enough, okay, or maybe you didn't rest enough with mayonnaise, you really need time in between. Same thing when you make holiday sauce this week. You kind of have to rest a little bit because it takes time in between. You whip, rest a little bit, give it a little time because it takes time for the lipoprotein, you know, the emulsifier, to line themselves up. I told my class this morning, when you look under the microscope, it's amazing. They all line themselves around the fat droplets or the oil droplets. The emulsifier all line them up neatly. Hydrophilic will be liking water, facing the water, which is outside. The droplet themselves are oil or butter, and so the hydrophilic will be the water pointed out. Okay, what is the other? Hydrophobic will be liking fat pointed in, and they all line themselves up neatly around to keep them separated. So you see this continuous phase, which is water phase, which is only a couple of tablespoons maybe. That's all, which you could support 1 cup of oil, unbelievable, all oil droplets like that, and they're all surrounded by the emulsifier, which is what? What is the emulsifier in the holiday sauce you're making this week? Egg yolk. It is a fabulous, the best lipoprotein or emulsifier there is in natural food. Without that, we cannot make a lot of other foods. So even though it's egg yolk, it still has vitamin A. As long as you don't overeat too much of the cholesterol and all that, it's still okay. Nowadays, the doctors are saying it's perfectly okay for even those who have high cholesterol level to have more eggs now, because they found that the type of egg, the type of cholesterol evidently does not seem to affect. As long as before they said, well, 2 or 3 eggs a week is okay. And now they say, the doctors are saying 3 to 4 eggs are okay. And now they say 1 egg a day are okay, but just don't eat some of the other bad fats or whatever, because eggs are still supposed to be good food, give you so much nutrients. But anyway, so they act also not just as a good food, actually act as a wonderful emulsifier, which you'll see this week in holiday sauce. Okay, any questions about anything else since I have some time? Yes?
Is there a sign-in sheet going around?
Oh, sorry, totally forgot. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Lawrence. Good work, huh? Okay, so So next week, we're going to be talking about milk and milk fat, eggs, and egg products. And the week following will be the midterm, and there will not be a training assignment, by the way, from lab report. Okay, we're doing 2 weeks on starches and sauces, 2 weeks, because there's so many products. We could rotate the products for the students. Okay. And then, let me see. But anyway, I gave you 1 week off so that you can study for your midterm. Okay? So during the week of midterm, there's no lab report to be turned in. Okay. And yeah?
Do you have any suggestions for studying for the midterms? Should we focus on?
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm not sure whether I have enough time, but I could. But I don't have my notes with me. Maybe could you remind me next week? Because next week is going to be eggs and egg products. I think I'll have some time at the end, which I could go over. Remind me at the very beginning, so I save enough time. About 15 minutes about what the questions might be and what are some of the important areas to study. Yeah, it would be helpful because especially on the subject of vegetables, I rushed through the material so fast because I didn't have enough time. So I should go over it. Yeah. I will tell you exactly which topics I will include. You're referring to the midterm, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I will. But a little bit too soon now, but I will.
Yeah.
I will definitely do that. Mm-hmm.
I have a question on oil rancidity.
Oil rancidity, yes.
If you cook something, if the oil doesn't smell rancid before you cook it, and then you cook something and then the oil smells rancid afterwards, does that mean it turned?
Well, because once you cook it, it's going to be a little easier for it to turn, even more so, more rancid. So if you want to save the oil, right, from frying?
Well, when I make popcorn, I do with canola oil and it smells fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the popcorn's all popped, I smell the oil and it smells terrible.
Oh, the oil smells terrible?
Yeah. So did it...
Did you use fresh oil? You have the same
I think
milk?
so.
You think so?
So do you think it was just too high, like the...
Overburn, maybe? Not sure. I've tasted popcorn. It seems okay for me. I don't know.
But it's the smell, right?
It's the smell. Maybe certain fats may be more prone, as I said, to rancidity than the others. So certain fats might be better also for you, for health. The long chain ones are always the ones that are more durable, so it could last longer. But you want the butter also, the flavor also. I don't know, depending on the fat. Yeah. But it's in okay. I didn't see. I don't eat a lot of popcorn. Maybe that's why I can't compare. Any other question? Did you have a question?
Yeah, for the mayonnaise lab, I know one of the main principles we're going to talk about.
For the mayonnaise, say it again.
For the mayonnaise lab.
For the mayonnaise lab, yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll talk about emulsions.
Oh yeah.
What
you can
else
talk
would
about
you
emulsion
recommend
with
talking
okay for your lab report.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's a lot you could talk about. You could talk about the emulsifier. Okay, what was the emulsifier? You could say the egg yolk. This is why. This is one principle. And egg. You could say something about the emulsifier. It has 2 different ends. Okay. Hydrophilic, hydrophobic, pointing to what? Okay. It's all review of the material actually that we learned in classes. Okay. And then you could say that you use the egg yolk. And the oil that you use in mayonnaise, what oil did you use?
You use olive oil.
Olive oil. So if you use olive oil, that's you use olive oil as droplets into. So that would be the discontinuous phase, droplets. But in the continuous phase, what's in the bowl would be what? Would be the liquid or the water. What did you have? Lemon juice?
Lemon juice.
The lemon juice will be the continuous phase. You could say something about that. and the droplets will be the oil. And so you have to drip the oil very slowly and gradually while you're whipping it, while you're mixing it. You have to mix it really well. And I did tell the class, kind of resting between, don't go, allow time for them to kind of like line up, just like kids lining up and find a seat. And then once they're there, they stay there. And then you add more and more. And so you could talk about the yolk. You could talk about already the liquid, what liquid you use as a continuous phase, like what you could talk about the oil droplets you put in, okay, and that's a discontinuous phase. These are the droplets, and how the emulsified forms themselves, surround themselves around, the oil droplets. And you could say something about the fact that it's permanent. Why is it permanent? It stays like this, okay, and which is very different from any other method of making, such as salad dressing or any vinaigrette. It's only temporary because you shake the food. Of course, if you're talking about this, what else can you talk about? That's already several principles we talked about. Okay, the ingredients, the methodology, why it's important that way, and why sometimes rest a little bit is helpful for it to take time to find its place too. And of course, that's not in the text, but I know as a fact that it's nice for us to rest a little in between. And then, and that's how mayonnaise is made, and this is why it's a permanent emulsion. And you could keep it for a long time, and it tastes. And you could say something about the taste, how much better it tastes when it compares with a store-bought mayonnaise, and why? Because first of all, we don't know what kind of oil they use. You use olive oil. First of all, we don't know what kind of fat they use. Oh, olive oil is a fat, and then. And I think that lemon juice tastes very good as a liquid. And I was going to say something else, and see what else should you say? And then you could always relate to a textbook what they have to say.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
then you could compare notes. Just yeah, I think there's enough.
Okay.
And then there was something important I was going to suggest, but what was your result? Was it successful? Did you make it?
Ours was successful. The
Was
other
successful?
was successful. Theirs was more liquidy, and ours was like much thicker and consistent.
Yeah, you could talk about the consistency and thickness and how actually easy it is to make it. If you were to make it at home, you could keep it, and you would enjoy with,
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So about the quiz, I'll email you tonight.
Yeah, why don't you email me whatever note that you have.
Yeah, and
Well, just